Sometimes, the strongest families disintegrate in silence before the world hears the crash. The Brown family appeared perfect on television. To the world, Kody Brown, a polygamous man with 4 wives and numerous children, was the public face of plural marriage in America. Sister wives promised love, harmony, and a remarkable family experience. But what the world did not notice initially were the unseen cracks, the stealthy tears, and the silent distance that crept in like a storm about to burst free. When the show premiered, everyone was intrigued. Here was this man, Kody, who had constructed not only a marriage, but an entire community within his house. He had 4 wives, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, and all of them raised children under one overarching dream, a family united through love, faith, and close-knit bonding. On television, there were dinner gatherings, group talks, and children's giggles. To the viewers, it was a glimpse of another world, a world where more than one wife could coexist and share one husband. Everyone thought, wow, they really do make it work. But what everyone didn't know was that even the sturdiest walls collapse when one individual feels invisible. Inside the Brown family, equality and love didn't exist. Kody attempted to divide his time and attention, but the reality is it's nearly impossible. All the wives wished to feel special, wished to feel singled out, and wished to feel like they were most important. But over time, jealousy and resentment crept in. Christine felt she was fighting for attention. Meri felt rejected. Janelle remained practical but quietly observed the favoritism. And Robyn, the youngest wife, seemed to be getting more and more attention from Kody. The on-TV smiles tended to cover up the sighs behind the closed doors. For years, these small battles were ignored. Rather than fixing the hurt, everyone just kept going and hoped everything would somehow magically turn around. But pressure, just like with a glass with a slight crack, will eventually make it break. The breaking point wasn't one giant battle. It was silence. Silence is louder than screaming, and in the Brown family, the silence between Kody and some of his wives reached a breaking point. Christine ceased waiting by the door for him to come. Meri ceased demanding his attention. Even Janelle, the capable and serene one, began keeping her feelings concealed. And Kody, he didn't always see. Or perhaps he didn't want to. He thought the family remained united, but in reality, each wife felt isolated. The foundation that kept them strong now had cracks in it. Consider this. A family of this number implies each action is multiplied by at least 4. If one wife feels disregarded, the whole family feels the same way. If one child witnesses their mother cry, the whole family feels that emotion.
Christine once told her she didn't feel like she was important anymore. Those were not just words of confession, but a warning sign. Warnings were disregarded. And when a person feels they are invisible in their own marriage, it is only a matter of time before they leave. Meri, however, had silent tears. She didn't blow up. She didn't yell loud.
She just kept on hoping that Kody would finally look at her the way he used to. And that look never happened. Her pain evolved into the kind of sadness people keep hidden until it shatters them totally. And Janelle, she'd always dividing her time between family duties, but even she began to wonder, is this truly the life I joined? Sister Wives' cameras recorded much, but not all. They recorded the arguments, the disagreements, and the confrontations, but could not always record the silent heartbreak. Behind the cameras, Christine would spend nights wondering if she deserved more. Meri would sit alone in her room, hoping Kody would knock on the door. Janelle would avoid arguments but carry a storm in her chest. Meanwhile, Robyn, whether she liked it or not, was the focus of attention. She was regarded as the favorite wife. And in a plural marriage, that is both a blessing and a curse. The world saw smiles and dinners, but what was taking place in private was vastly different. Eventually, the cracks could no longer be hidden. Christine started to pull away more openly. She stopped pretending everything was fine. Meri's sadness became obvious to fans. Janelle began voicing her frustrations. And Kody, he responded in anger, in denial, in frustration of his own. He wanted control. He wanted things to be the way they were before. But sometimes, once love escapes your grasp, you can never have it again. This was the breaking point. The point when the world caught on that this wasn't some other reality show family. This was a family unraveling before millions of eyes. The breaking point wasn't one fight, wasn't one argument. It was from years of distance, years of abandonment. A dream once seeming impenetrable had begun to crumble. The Browns had promised the world that plural marriage was possible, that love could be multiplied, not divided. But love wasn't multiplying. It was dissolving one relationship at a time. And for viewers, it was heartbreaking and compelling. Because when a family like this disintegrates, the crash is audible to the world. They say the quietest people often carry the loudest storms inside. For years, Janelle Brown was the quiet one. She was the peacekeeper, the practical wife, the one who complained little, who was busy raising her children, being responsible, and keeping things going. Fans tended to view her as steady, calm, and rock-like, a woman who could weather plural marriage's chaos with ease. But even the mildest of waters can boil. And when Janelle ultimately hit her boiling point, the blowback rocked not just her marriage to Kody, but the entire underpinning of the Brown family. Janelle was unique from the start among the other wives. She wasn't a firecracker. She wasn't a drama queen looking for all the attention. She was independent, typically referred to as the backbone of the family. She managed the finances. She worked diligently. She provided stability for the children. And in a lot of ways, she let Kody pursue his vision while she took care of the reality. But this unassuming strength didn't come cheap, because while she didn't ask for much, she didn't get much either. Kody tended to neglect her emotional needs, believing that Janelle would always be okay. For a while, she was, until the favoritism became too obvious to ignore. As time passed, Kody's attention leaned heavily toward Robyn. Family gatherings turned into battles of loyalty. Decisions felt one-sided.
And Janelle, who had been patient for so long, began to notice just how unequal things had become. She saw Christine leave. She saw Meri's quiet heartbreak. And now she saw her own marriage being tested. Janelle had always trusted in equal partnership. She wanted respect. She wanted respect. She wanted equity. But all she saw was favoritism, control, and separation.
And in the depths of her heart, she knew that she couldn't be quiet all along. The turning point came during one of Sister Wives' most memorable showdowns. It began with conflict regarding household rules, living situations, and Kody's attempts to assert his dominance. Janelle, generally level-headed, attempted to talk some sense into him. But rather than listening, Kody escalated to yelling. He told her she was being disrespectful. He insisted on loyalty. And that's when Janelle lost her cool. Her voice, initially steady, became firm. Her eyes blazed with frustration for years. She said to Kody straight out what she had been keeping inside, that his conduct was not fair, that his preferential treatment was killing the family, and that she would no longer be quiet. Fans were stunned. For the first time, Janelle, the peacekeeper, was the flame. In the heat of the fight, hard truths were dropped. Janelle blamed Kody for favoring Robyn above the others. She claimed he treated her and the other wives like they didn't exist. She demanded respect, not domination. Defensive and furious, Kody shot back. He blamed Janelle for betrayal. He claimed she wasn't loyal to him as family head. The confrontation was charged, emotional, and impossible to miss. This wasn't a disagreement. It was years of pent-up anguish spilling over in front of millions of people. And once those words are said, there is no taking them back. Janelle's emotions were raw after the altercation. She wasn't a person who enjoyed publicized drama, but she knew she couldn't remain quiet any longer. She had placed the needs of the family over her own for years. She had given up her feelings for the sake of harmony, but then she knew that peace without respect is not peace but surrender. Her cry wasn't loud, but it was strong. Because beneath all that anger was heartache from realizing that the man she had once trusted with her life was no longer the man she believed he was. When the episode came on, fans rallied around Janelle. They saw her strength. They saw her courage. They saw that she wasn't merely the submissive, practical wife. She was a woman who knew her value. For a lot of people watching, Janelle became a hero because she stood up for control. She stood up for fairness, and she stood up for herself. Her explosion wasn't just anger. It was empowerment. Janelle's confrontation didn't just change her relationship with Kody, it shifted the entire family dynamic. Christine, who had already left, praised Janelle's courage. She knew how hard it was to stand up to Kody. Meri, still quietly suffering, saw a reflection of her own unspoken feelings. Perhaps she wished she could do the same. And Robyn. The confrontation only furthered the feeling that she was Kody's favorite, despite her protestations otherwise. The children saw the fallout as well. They watched their mother stand up for herself. And although it was painful, it was inspiring. Because children must see that their mother has a voice, even when it shakes the family to its foundation. After the showdown, Janelle was presented with a decision: remain in a marriage where she did not feel seen, or step into a new era of independence. Her choice didn't happen overnight. Janelle was a pragmatist, and she always cherished family harmony. But gradually, she came to understand that harmony without parity isn't true. She understood that remaining meant compromising her own happiness. And for the first time, Janelle permitted herself to envision life outside of Kody's grasp. What was so different about Janelle's journey was how she managed her anger. She didn't let it consume her. She didn't spiral out of control. She used it as a catalyst for change. Her meltdown wasn't all about anger. It was about taking back her voice. She had been silenced for so long, but now the world got it. She had boundaries. And in that instant, she demonstrated that even the most serene spirit can turn into a tempest when pushed beyond reason. Janelle's fiery showdown delivered a strong message. That silence and weakness are two different things. That every human being, however patient, has his or her breaking point. And that insisting on respect is not betrayal, it's survival. Her tale struck a chord with so many viewers who had been ignored in their own lives, who had been instructed to stay quiet, and who had been made to feel invisible for far too long. Janelle taught them that at times, speaking out is the only way one can be free. For Kody, Janelle's outburst was an eye-opener. Not only was he losing one wife, he was losing the foundation upon which his family rested. He attempted to deflect the blame. He attempted to blame Janelle for being disloyal. But the truth would not be denied. His actions, his favoritism, and his control had driven her away. And though he attempted to cling to the family image, what was real was evident. The family was breaking apart, piece by piece. Janelle's showdown will forever be remembered as one of Sister Wives' most brazen moments. It wasn't an argument. It was a statement of freedom. Her fiery stance revealed to the world that even a person who may appear quiet and steady can pack untold might. That autonomy is strong. That no one must give up her voice to make another person at ease. They say the loudest cries are the ones nobody hears. That line became Meri Brown's reality. While Christine departed with valor and Janelle faced off with flames, Meri had another chapter. Her heartache wasn't catastrophic. It wasn't a public spectacle initially. Rather, it was whispered, nearly imperceptible. But sometimes, the most hushed pain wounds the deepest. Meri was the first wife. She was the woman who stood by Kody at the very beginning, when the dream of plural marriage was only an idea. She was there before the cameras, before the fame, before the world cared. But as the years passed, Meri's place in Kody's heart began to fade, until she became almost a stranger in her own marriage. When Meri wed Kody, it was with love and enthusiasm. She believed in him. She believed in the vision of creating a large family, and for many years, she cherished that vision with pride. As the first wife, Meri had a key role in establishing the foundation of the family. She was faithful, she was encouraging, and she was committed to plural marriage succeeding, even when it wasn't easy. But love has a way of changing when it isn't nurtured. And for Meri, the man who once looked into her eyes with love eventually stopped looking at her at all. Meri's heartbreak didn't happen overnight. It began with small things, less affection, shorter conversations, fewer shared moments. Slowly, the gap between her and Kody grew wider. She tried to close it. She tried to close it. She tried to smile through the pain. But nothing worked. And as the years passed, her loneliness became unbearable. Imagine living in a house full of people, but still feeling completely alone. That was Meri's life. She was surrounded by family, yet her heart felt empty. Meri's loneliness became so heavy that it pushed her into one of the darkest chapters of her life, the infamous catfishing scandal. Yearning for connection, Meri began speaking to someone online who she believed was a man offering her love and attention, the kind of love she had been missing for years. But the relationship was a trap. She was deceived, humiliated, and exposed in front of the world. For the fans, it was appalling. For the fans, it was appalling. For Kody, it was another reason to push him further away. And for Meri, it was heartbreaking. She wasn't only betrayed by the person on the internet. She was betrayed by the reality that her marriage had led her to such desperation in the first place. That scandal left a lasting wound. And from then on, Kody confessed he could no longer envision a future of intimacy with her. Following the scandal, Meri attempted to rebuild. She remained, in hopes that perhaps someday Kody would forgive her or attempt again. She attended family events. She grinned for the cameras. She acted her part. But between the lines, she confessed the truth. Her marriage was over. She avowed in tearful interviews that she wanted to be loved, but Kody no longer desired her. She was in a unilateral relationship, and everyone noticed. Meri's narrative affected millions because so many people are familiar with that hurt, being in a relationship where you give yourself but get nothing. What made Meri's story unique was her strength in silence. Unlike Christine, she didn't storm out. Unlike Janelle, she didn't explode with anger. Instead, she endured. Some fans saw her as weak for staying. Others saw her as incredibly strong. Because surviving in silence requires a different kind of courage. She loved deeply, and even when that love wasn't returned, she held on. But the truth is, holding on to someone who has already let go may be the greatest heartbreak of all. The cameras of Sister Wives captured some of Meri's most vulnerable confessions. One of the most heartbreaking was when she admitted that Kody no longer saw her as a partner. Her eyes filled with tears, her voice cracked, but she spoke with honesty. For viewers, it was heart-wrenching. They witnessed a woman who had dedicated decades of her life to a man who now acted as if she didn't exist. They witnessed a wife become invisible. It wasn't a television storyline, it was truth. And that's why it was so compelling. There was a point when Meri let go. She stopped fighting for Kody's attention. She stopped whining for morsels of affection. Rather, she realized the truth. Her marriage was dead, even if the documents didn't yet reflect it. Acceptance wasn't surrender. It was liberty. It was the instant she understood that she didn't require Kody's approval to exist. She didn't need his affection to matter. And even though she lingered a while, her heart had long since departed. Meri's path grew into something greater than her own narrative. It grew into a message to all the women around the world who watch, that it's all right to acknowledge when love is lost, that you are not your value based on someone else's love, and that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply release quietly. Her tears were quiet, but her story screamed. As the years went by, Meri slowly started rebuilding her life. She concentrated on her own businesses. She drew strength from her independence, and she began to share moments of happiness beyond marriage. The broken smile slowly reappeared, not because Kody returned it to her, but because she found it within herself. Imagine living in a house full of people, but still feeling completely alone. That was Meri's life. She was surrounded by family, yet her heart felt empty. Meri's loneliness became so heavy that it pushed her into one of the darkest chapters of her life, the infamous catfishing scandal. Yearning for connection, Meri began speaking to someone online who she believed was a man offering her love and attention, the kind of love she had been missing for years. But the relationship was a trap. She was deceived, humiliated, and exposed in front of the world. For the fans, it was appalling. For the fans, it was appalling. For Kody, it was another reason to push him further away. And for Meri, it was heartbreaking. She wasn't only betrayed by the person on the internet. She was betrayed by the reality that her marriage had led her to such desperation in the first place. That scandal left a lasting wound. And from then on, Kody confessed he could no longer envision a future of intimacy with her. Following the scandal, Meri attempted to rebuild. She remained, in hopes that perhaps someday Kody would forgive her or attempt again. She attended family events. She grinned for the cameras. She acted her part. But between the lines, she confessed the truth. Her marriage was over. She avowed in tearful interviews that she wanted to be loved, but Kody no longer desired her. She was in a unilateral relationship, and everyone noticed. Meri's narrative affected millions because so many people are familiar with that hurt, being in a relationship where you give yourself but get nothing. What made Meri's story unique was her strength in silence. Unlike Christine, she didn't storm out. Unlike Janelle, she didn't explode with anger. Instead, she endured. Some fans saw her as weak for staying. Others saw her as incredibly strong. Because surviving in silence requires a different kind of courage. She loved deeply, and even when that love wasn't returned, she held on. But the truth is, holding on to someone who has already let go may be the greatest heartbreak of all. The cameras of Sister Wives captured some of Meri's most vulnerable confessions. One of the most heartbreaking was when she admitted that Kody no longer saw her as a partner. Her eyes filled with tears, her voice cracked, but she spoke with honesty. For viewers, it was heart-wrenching. They witnessed a woman who had dedicated decades of her life to a man who now acted as if she didn't exist. They witnessed a wife become invisible. It wasn't a television storyline, it was truth. And that's why it was so compelling. There was a point when Meri let go. She stopped fighting for Kody's attention. She stopped whining for morsels of affection. Rather, she realized the truth. Her marriage was dead, even if the documents didn't yet reflect it. Acceptance wasn't surrender. It was liberty. It was the instant she understood that she didn't require Kody's approval to exist. She didn't need his affection to matter. And even though she lingered a while, her heart had long since departed. Meri's path grew into something greater than her own narrative. It grew into a message to all the women around the world who watch, that it's all right to acknowledge when love is lost, that you are not your value based on someone else's love, and that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply release quietly. Her tears were quiet, but her story screamed. As the years went by, Meri slowly started rebuilding her life. She concentrated on her own businesses. She drew strength from her independence, and she began to share moments of happiness beyond marriage. The broken smile slowly reappeared, not because Kody returned it to her, but because she found it within herself. For years, she had subordinated the needs of the family to her own. She had sacrificed her emotions for the sake of harmony. But at that instant, she understood that peace without respect is not peace, it's surrender. Her tears were not loud, but they were intense. For behind her rage was heartbreak. Heartbreak at realizing that the man she trusted her life with no longer was the partner she believed he was. When the episode went on the air, fans rallied to Janelle's cause. They witnessed her strength. They witnessed her strength. They witnessed her courage. They witnessed that she wasn't simply the meek, practical wife. She was a woman who was aware of her value. For many viewers, Janelle became a heroine because she fought control. She fought favoritism, and she fought for herself. Her breakdown wasn't just fury. It was empowerment. Janelle's confrontation didn't merely alter her dynamic with Kody, it altered the entire family dynamic. Christine, who had already departed, applauded Janelle's bravery. She understood the difficulty in standing up to Kody. Meri, quietly suffering still, saw a reflection of her own unspoken emotions. Maybe she wished she could do the same. And Robyn, the clash only intensified the feeling that she was Kody's pet, despite her claims otherwise. The kids saw it too. They watched their mom stand up for herself. And although it hurt, it was also empowering, because kids need to know that their mom has a voice, even when it shakes the foundation of the family. Following the confrontation, Janelle had a decision to make: remain in a marriage where she felt invisible or enter a new era of independence. Her choice did not happen overnight. Janelle was pragmatic, and she had always been concerned with family cohesion. But over time, she came to understand that cohesion without equality is not actual. She understood that remaining meant foregoing her own happiness. And for the first time, Janelle permitted herself to dream of life independent of Kody's rule. What was so remarkable about Janelle's tale was how she treated her anger. She didn't let it consume her. She didn't collapse. Rather, she used it as a moment of change. Her blow-up was not simply about fury, it was about taking back her voice. She'd been silent for so long, but now the world heard she had boundaries. And in that instant, she demonstrated that even the most gentle spirit can be a tempest when provoked beyond endurance. Janelle's fiery standoff delivered a strong message. That silence is not weakness, that each individual, no matter how tolerant, has a breaking point, and that asserting respect is not betrayal, it's survival. Her narrative struck a chord with tens of thousands of viewers who had been ignored in their own relationships, who had been reminded to stay quiet, and who had felt invisible for far too long. Janelle taught them that sometimes the only way to be free is to speak out. It was a wake-up call for Kody, too. He wasn't losing one wife. He was losing one wife. He was losing the cornerstone of his family. He attempted to deflect blame. He attempted to blame Janelle for being disloyal. But the reality was undeniable. His actions, his favoritism, and his control had driven her away. And while he attempted to maintain the family's reputation, the reality was clear. The family was coming apart, wife by wife. Janelle's stand will be remembered as one of the bravest moments in Sister Wives. It wasn't a fight. It was a fight for independence. Her fiery stand demonstrated to the world that even the quietest and most steady people have unimaginable power, that independence is strong, and that nobody needs to surrender their voice in order to make somebody else comfortable. They say being chosen feels like a blessing until it feels like a curse. For Robyn Brown, those words became her life. Among all the wives within the Brown family, she was the only one remaining by Kody's side. To the outside world, that may seem like triumph, but inside the storm of the Brown household, being the favorite wife came with more pain, guilt, and criticism than she could have ever imagined. When Robyn first entered the Brown family, she brought fresh energy. She was younger, full of optimism, and openly romantic with Kody in a way the other wives hadn't been for years. Her return was thrilling for Kody. He felt alive once more, as if a man finding love all over again. For Robyn, it meant an opportunity to actually live the plural marriage she was a believer in. She had always dreamed of being a part of a large family, and she felt joining the Browns would do that. For the other wives, however, her return sowed seeds of insecurity. Christine felt replaced. Meri felt pushed aside. Janelle saw the increasing favoritism, and although Robyn didn't mean to, she soon became the hub of the family's unbalance. From the start, it was obvious Kody treated Robyn differently. He was affectionate with her in a way he wasn't with the rest of the women. He listened more. He spent more time with her kids. Viewers could see it. The wives could see it. And resentment began to build slowly. Robyn was placed in a situation she did not seek out. She became the favorite wife. And though some would consider that to be an honor, in a polygamous marriage, it is poison. Because for one wife to be favored, the others have to be ignored. Robyn didn't only get love, she got blame. She was blamed for Christine's departure, for Janelle's outburst, and for Meri being left. No matter whether it was justified or not, the cloud of favoritism trailed after her. Robyn confessed repeatedly that she never wanted to be the source of strife. She expressed that she desired a unified family. She envisioned sisterhood, wives standing together. But life was not like that. When the other wives drifted apart, Robyn became increasingly alone. She had critics rather than sisters, walls of resentment rather than bonds of connection. Her shame was oppressive. She knew that Kody loved her more. She knew that Kody trusted her more. And though a part of her longed to feel safe in that love, the other part of her felt shame, because his love for her had been at the cost of his love for the others. As Christine turned away, as Janelle stood up to Kody, as Meri confessed that her marriage was dead, Robyn remained the lone wife clinging on. She didn't lose co-wives alone. She lost her vision of harmony. She lost the large family she imagined she was becoming a part of, and she lost the adoration of fans who thought she had won at the expense of others' happiness. Robyn was left with Kody, but also with the remains of destroyed marriages, damaged children, and a tarnished reputation. Being the last wife standing wasn't the happily ever after people envision. Robyn was caught between two positions, the wife Kody loved best and the wife that fans hated most. She was alone in a marriage that had lost the harmony of plural love. Plural marriage was about being together, about sharing burdens, about sisterhood. But with Christine leaving, Janelle gone, and Meri gone in all ways but name, there was no plural family anymore. It was simply Robyn. And the isolation of that reality was crushing. Robyn stuck by Kody's side through every tempest. She jumped to his defense when the other wives condemned. She attempted to explain to the kids when they drifted away. She stood by him when the fans rebelled against him. But loyalty comes at a cost. And for Robyn, that cost was isolation. She wasn't rewarded for sticking by Kody. She was held accountable. To certain fans, she was the villain. To others, she was a tragic character, lost in a love that took everything else away. One of the most difficult times for Robyn was when she attempted to tell the other wives about her hurt. She explained that she did not want to be the favorite. She pleaded for harmony. She pleaded for harmony. She wept, stating that she just wanted a family where everyone loved one another. But by then, wounds were too deep. Christine didn't trust her. Janelle didn't trust her. And Meri, still hoping for Kody's love, saw Robyn as the cause she was invisible. Regardless of what Robyn had to say, the gap could not be bridged. With everyone else departed, Kody and Robyn's relationship was the focus of the show. Yet far from being revered, it was condemned. The fans said it was not fair. They said that Kody's favoritism had ruined his family. They said that Robyn had won. But at what expense? Even Robyn conceded that she did not want to be the sole survivor. She had enrolled in plural marriage, not monogamy. And yet, that was what she got, not by design, but by accident. Their love was genuine. It was a love built around devastation. Few have been so attacked in reality TV as Robyn. On the internet, viewers accused her of being manipulative, controlling, selfish, but friends tended to say she was sensitive, emotional, and very caring. The reality is likely to be somewhere in the middle. Robyn wasn't the villain of the tale, but she wasn't the hero either. She was a woman trapped in a situation where nobody could emerge as a winner. And though she stuck by Kody, public opinion weighed heavy over her like a cloud she could not shake. The Brown family started off as a vision of oneness, faith, and love. But at the end, it was lost. Christine opted for freedom. Janelle opted for strength. Meri opted for acceptance. And Robyn, she opted to remain. She opted for loyalty. She opted for Kody. But in place of the happy, large family she had envisioned, she was left with a husband embroiled in controversy and a non-existent family. She was the sole survivor, but surviving in the ashes of what had been. Robyn's tale is complex. She will forever be the wife who remained, the wife who was loved the most, and the wife who was the face of the divide. But she will also be remembered as the woman who showed that sometimes being chosen doesn't mean being happy, that love without balance creates loneliness, and that being the last one standing doesn't always mean you've won. Sometimes it just means you're the last one left to pick up the pieces.